To adventures. And I remember as a child, probably maybe 7 or 8 years old, in Texas, West Texas, where the Franklin Mountains come to the edge of the desert in El Paso. And I remember being there, laying in the back of my dad's pickup truck with my dad and probably some of my nieces and nephews. And we're looking up at the night sky. And the cool part about in El Paso being near the mountains was sometimes as it's getting dusk, you could see the bats come flying from the caves over. And I just thought that was really cool. I thought that was really just awesome. And it was also a little creepy, but at the same time, I was like, don't come down here. But I was looking up at that night sky, and the way the clouds would sometimes swirl past, and the velvety black. And my dad would say things like, you see that star over there? That star shone on Julius Caesar, Maura. And you see that star over there? That star was shining on the earth when Jesus was here. And it was so cool to me that these stars were shining for that long. And they were so far away, and not just that there were a few of them, but there were billions of them. And to me, in that moment, I knew and I felt that there was a splendor, a glory. I knew that. I knew that. And that signified it for me, those stars, the cosmos. And as a little girl, I was like, wow, I'm a part of that. That is part of me. That splendor. That splendor. And knowing that was very empowering. Was very empowering. Now, as I went along in life, and this has happened to some of us, I kind of got that educated out of me a bit. You know, there's something way out here, and you are so bad, and because of a sin that somebody committed so many thousands of years ago, you're being punished. And I'm not dogging anybody's religious beliefs, but I'm saying, I'm looking up at the stars, I'm looking up at the cosmos, I'm looking at that power in the sunset, I'm looking at the fact that dogs have puppies, people have babies. And I'm like, wow, that does not compute with me. That did not feel congruent in this higher, beautiful, creative being that had the possibility to have stars shine on us, and our planet that is just far enough away from the sun so that we don't get completely roasted, we just get a little cooked, and we can have plants that grow to feed us. The splendor of creation, the Creator, the splendor of that. So we're coming into a new year. And I don't know about you, but I have made resolutions before, and somewhere around February 23rd, let's just pick a date, I don't even know where the hell the list is. It's somewhere in a drawer with all the great intentions, and the resolutions are always things like clean out my closet. Lose 5 pounds, that's always there, along with its friends, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever. You know, those things. But you know, there's this uncomfort in me, and I don't know about you, but there's this discomfort that says, you are capable of so much more that is beyond a task list, a to-do list, one more damn thing you got to get done in your day. Because if it doesn't come from here, if it's not anchored in the splendor, you will crash, and you will probably crash magnificently. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? When you try to ride that bucking bronco we call life on your own, and you're not connected to that splendor, and you're not remembering the cosmos, wow, it is spectacular. I have done some spectacularly crazy, awful, magnificent things in that space. So this morning I want to talk about is that splendor. So take a moment right now. What reminds you of that splendor? What reminds you of that splendor in your life? Is it when you look into the eyes of a newborn baby and you go, wow? Do you know what always freaks me out? It's just a few moments ago, this child was in someone's belly. This child, what? Wow. Wow. Maybe it's a flower. Maybe it's looking down at the flower. Maybe you're at the point where the splendor to you is, thank God I have a meal in front of me. Wow. I have a meal. I was able to get this meal. Maybe Maybe it's in the small things for you right now. But to remember that and plug in, when your day starts to ground you down, to remember that and connect with that. Okay? So, going from that splendor, what is an adventure? Well, I put together a few definitions off the interweb, and this is what it said. An unusual, exciting, typically hazardous, experience or activity with an uncertain outcome that requires you to be bold. I have news for you. That's your life. That's your life. Let me read that again. An unusual, exciting, typically hazardous experience or activity with an uncertain outcome that requires you to be bold. That is your life. That is your life. So this year, though, what other adventures can you embrace? Do you want to embrace? And here's the deal. To some people, their adventure this year is, I'm going to hike Everest. Good. Good for them. Good. Really good. For some people, you know what their adventure is? Their adventure is, I am going to pull myself out of my bed today and actually get my shoes on and try to go outside. That's an adventure to them. Don't compare your adventure to anybody else's, because for that person to get their shoes on and go outside is just as magnificent and beautiful and connected to the splendor as it is the person who climbed Mount Everest. So get out of that comparison. What is your adventure? Now, intentions are very powerful, very powerful. And when you set that intention in the splendor, wild, crazy things can happen. And so my husband and I have set the intention, and we started setting it a while back, to travel more. To travel more. Whatever that means. To travel more. And you know, you guys, we went on a drive-through of Europe this past summer and such. Putting out that intention, I get a call, and some of you already know this, I get a call from one of my lifelong friends. She lives in Kuwait. She works for Chevron Texaco. She's about to move back to the States. She calls me up a few weeks ago and she says, hey, I'm about to move back. I'm only going to be in this part of the world a little bit longer. If we're going to have an adventure over here, let's do it now. She says, can you meet me in Istanbul? Okay, I'll meet you in Istanbul. I'll meet you in Istanbul for my birthday. And some people are like, Istanbul, Istanbul, where East meets West, where the Byzantines used to be Constantinople. And I'm okay. And you know what? This adventure has been a long time in the making, okay? I would have not had the wherewithal and the gumption to undertake this adventure a decade ago, 5 years ago possibly, on my own. I'm flying in, trusting and knowing. Now, the cool part about that is I'm understanding why travel is so important to my soul, why that is an adventure I need to take. Being one with the splendor, I have the calling to want to go all over the world and speak to people and with people. And when you travel and you see different things and you're out of your comfort zone, that reminds you that we are all one. I'm going to drink Turkish coffee with real Turks. You know? You're seeing that. You get to experience that. So each one of you has something, once again, not comparing, knowing there's something in you that's calling you to that splendor. I love this quote. And this is a French name, and I'm going to pretend like I'm saying it correctly, so just go with me. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, Jean, said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide work and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. The vast and endless sea. So when you're coming at your resolutions, how fun is it to go, clean out garage? Okay, paint house. At first it starts out so fun, the dreams and the buying all the cute exercise clothes. It's so fantastic. And then the next thing you know, you're in the middle of March and you got a jug of wine. And you're just like, oh my goodness, the garage is still. No, and I'm not dogging. Some people are much more disciplined. I will give them that. But how much more is it if you said, wow, if I get that garage cleaned out, I might have extra cash from the things that I've sold, and I might be able to give things to needy people. And wow, with that garage cleaned out, I just realized maybe I want to sell my house. Garage is already cleaned out. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a path that you can go down, a really fun rabbit hole that you can go down and experience that in the adventure. Now, Lisa had sung about this. There's going to be things that come along, okay? And I just got out of a class that I was TAing with Reverend Julie called Roots. And at first I was like, okay, we get to do a lot of history. Actually, it was really a powerful class. And one of the writers was Emma Curtis Hopkins, and she encouraged Ernest Holmes. Now, this is a book that I normally would not have picked up off the shelf because it's called Scientific Christian Mental Practice. I don't know about you, but that wasn't calling me on a cold winter's night to read it, okay? Well, once I got in there, I love her. And this woman, writing back when, said, there is always at least once that we are called to stand steady to our principles. Take this night, your hardest trial, and put some denial and affirmation before it. Then from that hour, stand by your denial and affirmation. Don't just do it, stand by it, stand firm. This is your faith that builds character. Nothing is sure at all in your life until it has been put through the furnace, which is the meeting of the opposite to it with its noble steadfastness to itself, okay? So meeting that with a noble steadfastness. As you're going into this new year and you're calling in and you're putting out your intentions for adventure, because you're part of the adventure whether you want to be or not, right? That steadfastness, that time, that coming into that firmness, that faith, that's what faith is to me. Faith is knowing that there can be, in the ordinary, there is always extraordinary, there is always a solution, and standing firm with that. Is that easy all the time? Is it? No. That's why it's important to remember your oneness with the splendor. Connecting to what makes you remember that you are part of the whole, the one, the cosmos, the bigger, what that means to you. And I'll tell you this right now, I have two people who check in with me on a daily basis. We check in with each other. We check in with each other to say, hey, and it's like a text or a little email, 2 lines, says, what's up, good day, feeling hurried, remember me. Whatever it is, just a little something to say, okay, I know that there are other people thinking about me, and I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you, if you need prayer, come to the prayer forest. Sit with someone. Sit with someone. Because everybody's went through it. But if you can get through the storm, it's like holding onto the ship while it's going through the waves. And, uncertain outcomes at times. You put in the intention, and then the most crazy things happen. And I think some of you can attest to this. Some of you have been on your knees in the despair, not knowing what's going to happen next. And when you come out that other side, and you can stand with people in that is service. That is service. To know that, to not judge that in other people, but to know that we are one and we are all on this adventure together. So I encourage you in this new year, think about what you bring to the table. Think about who you are and what you've been through and how you can give that to others. Emma says that faith in the success of good, when evil seems to be harrying your life, will act like a gallant ship plowing the stormy main. You got to build that ship. Got to build that ship. And when you get caught up in the everyday garbage, remember, for me, I look out at that night sky and I think, yes. Yes. And when I look at that night sky, things like worrying about death, that doesn't worry me anymore. I didn't know where I was before I got here, and I was just fine. And that was supposedly an eternity. Mind blown. You start getting into some of that Eastern stuff and you're like, whoa, right? I look up at that stars and I'm like, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. So right here, I can enjoy this adventure right now. Now, when you're setting your eye on the adventure, remember, you're not talking about what it takes to build the ship. You're talking about what it's going to feel like when you're on the sea and you're not seasick. You're on the bow with your hair blowing. Okay? We're going to visualize that, right? And when you're there, your resolutions will fall into place naturally. Does that make sense? If I'm going to Istanbul, it's going to be natural. I need to clean out my closet. I need to pack properly. And for whatever it is you're going through. And I would encourage you to be quick, not so quick to use labels like good or bad. Good or bad. Because you don't know at times, my worst experiences turned out to be like, hallelujah. Hallelujah. That happened to me, with me. I was with that. I came out the other side and I was like, wow. Ernest Holmes says, today, realizing there is nothing in my past which can rise against me, nothing in my future which can menace the unfoldment of my experience, life shall be an eternal adventure, an unfolding experience of greater and better experiences. That's in this thing called you. So going back to the splendor a little bit, really feeling that. I was discussing this with my family, and my son Jacob, who is an engineering physics major, brave Jacob, we were talking about where do you find that splendor of God? Where is it for you? And you know what his answer was? In math and science. In math and science, because there is an order. You can use math and science. People use that. They build things. It's like the language of God. You may not think that when you're flunking algebra, but sometimes language is hard. Do you see what I'm saying, though? In that magic, knowing that there are things handed down. What about music? How many of you, at music, you feel the splendor of God? There are songs that bring me to tears. I will be having an awful day, and poor me, and this, and and I turn on a song and I go, a human being had that come through them. Why? Because they're one with the splendor. Are you getting my drift? I'm repeating it a lot, I know. So, what is it for you? What is it for you that reminds you of that splendor? Perhaps that's the first thing on your resolution list, is be more with the splendor. Be more. I love that Bible verse, and I may get a tattoo of it right here. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. Be still. Don't run around trying to find more stuff to do. That comes naturally when, have you ever heard that weird thing? When the being and doing becomes one? Have you ever experienced that? Anyone? Have you ever experienced that? Where you're no longer having to go, okay, step one, do this. The next thing you know, you wake up, your house is clean, you've got a promotion at work, and you're like, wow, I just knew in my heart intuitively what to do next. You're walking with the hand of God. You're walking with the hand of God. Ernest Holmes says the Spirit never fails. He put that in all caps. And if you've ever read Science of Mind, if he puts something in all caps, he means it's all caps. The Spirit never fails. He says, remember, God is the silent power behind all things, always ready to pour into our experience that which we need. I had a very extraordinary experience many moons ago, and some of you have heard this story, but just when I start to lose faith and I start to get really scared, like when the news is on and there's wars going on and things are happening, I fall back into this experience. So I'd like to share it briefly with you again, if I may. It was right after 9/11, and Jacob was 5 and young Spencer was 2. And I was really terrified because I'm now a mother and I have these young children and all these things are happening. And I was very concerned. And I am driving in my car to work, and young Jacob is in the back, and young Spencer. And young Jacob, he's 5. He's looking out the window, doing whatever a 5-year-old's doing, probably bulldozer, dog, whatever. And I'm in this stressed out, so sad for everyone involved, so sad for the world, everything. And this little voice says, Mom. I'm like, yes, Jacob. He says, Mom, if we had been on those airplanes that crashed, he said, I would have just taken your hand and together we would have waited for the hands of God to catch us. And they turned back around. In a moment where I was like, how can I be enough for my children? There's things in this world. Even if the most awful thing we can imagine happens to us right now, Mom, even if you, as my mother, cannot protect me, guess what? The cosmos, the splendor, is one with us. The hands will be out to catch us. I didn't coach him on that. That was a message from God straight to my heart, and I've held on to that. I've held on to that, knowing that the worst thing that I can imagine happening with this mind, I will still have the hands of God with me. And with that knowledge, I can embrace another year. This year, it's setting up a little bit, and I'm not sticking out an intention for bad things, but it's setting up to have some difficulties with some extended family. Some things that I'm going to have to work on and help with and deal with. But I have faith in the extraordinary that is in the ordinary, and I always know that there is a solution that presents itself, and I even know that when I'm on that ship that is plowing through the storm, I might be seasick as hell, but I'm going to get to the crackers, and I'm going to get to the shore. And it may not be a glorious landing. I might have sand in my teeth, all right? And there may be driftwood all around me, but I will be there. And then I can look back and go, wow, now I know how to sail that passage. Now I know how to do that. That faith piece. Another reason I love Emma Curtis Hopkins, a child's prayer can do more to clothe and feed a family than its father's daily toil. Do you understand what that means? Do you imbibe what that means, what she is saying there? A child's prayer can do more to clothe and feed a family than its father's daily toil. That knowing, that connection to that splendor, you've got the lifeline. It is there. It is there. So I'm inviting you right now. Just take a moment with me in this moment. Breathing in, knowing that that splendor is in you. Take just a moment to think about when you feel connected to the splendor. When you know that there is something magnificent and beautiful that has wished you into being. You are not an accident sitting in this chair. You are not. You are here for a purpose, for a reason, for a season. What is that speaks to you? Is it the shooting stars? Is it the music? Is it divine order in math and science? Is it your creativity? Is it being a parent or a grandparent? A friend? A lover? And from that space, and you know you are there when you want to weep. You know you are there when you feel the tingles. And you feel like your heart has burst open. And from that space, I invite you, dear, blessed, beautiful, perfect souls, from that place, I invite you to make your resolutions into the new year, for the adventure, for where the ship is going to sail, knowing that you are guided in the storm and that you are not ever alone. Ernest Holmes says, you are starting out on a great adventure, a wonderful journey. You are guided by love, inspired by truth, and your future will be what you make it. So in this moment, as we are together, let's just enter into a moment of prayer. Knowing, calling upon, being one with the all, the only. We move past judgments that get us stuck, knowing that when we embrace the power and the love, there are enough hands, there are enough hearts, there is enough soul for any situation, for any problem. We know that death is not the end. And we know that in all human suffering there are helpers, and we can be in that place with. That we are all one, that God is one with us. The cosmos, the splendor that placed the stars, has the power to be in and everywhere and in everyone. Omnipresent, omnipotent. And in this power, we come through, not settling anymore for letting life run us over, not settling anymore for taking a back seat in misery and suffering. We embrace that one step at a time, one moment at a time, not comparing ourselves to others, knowing that we are where we are to be, we are where we are at, and if in this moment, my only knowing is that I am alive, that is good enough in this moment. And then I embrace the next moment, and I am present for it in love, connected to all. We are in this together. We embrace this new year together, setting forth intentions that lead to adventures, that lead to journeys of all different sorts. For we are each a unique expression of the divine. And knowing this, being grateful for this, being thankful for this, we release this with great joy. And together we say, and so it is.